excited for.
Is this supposed to speak now?
One second.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're recording now. So, okay. Good evening and welcome to the City of Kingston Tree Commission meeting. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm the planning director for the City of Kingston. Just a couple of quick announcements before we start the meeting tonight. Want to let you know it is being recorded, live streamed. And so also, if you do have cell phones, I just ask that you put them on silent, please, so that they don't interfere with the meeting. If you have any conversations that you need to have amongst yourselves outside of the one with the commission, we just ask that you take it outside of the room. You can use the council chambers, because the other conference room unfortunately is in use right now. So, bathrooms are through the council chambers. Once you go through the double set of doors on the opposite side, men's is to your left, women's to your right. If we do have an emergency, we ask that you use the stairs and not use the elevator. If you need assistance, ask us and we will help you. And with that, I'm going to start the meeting at 5:03 p.m. Again, my name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm going to go around the table and ask the commission members to introduce themselves, but we do also have Brent Nepper, who is our urban forester, and then I'm going to start with Kareem.
Kennedy Days, member of the Tree Commission.
Evan Kane, Tree Commission member.
Vince Archer, Tree Commission.
Amanda O'Neill, Tree Commission.
Okay, and we do have a other guest tonight from DC.
Michael Callan, I'm the program manager for the forestry office in New Paltz.
Thank
So
you.
to come and say hi.
Thanks. All right, so we do have an agenda, but because we do have residents here from 37 Roosevelt Avenue, we're just going to jump right to you guys so that you can be on your way. I don't know, Brent, do you want to start the conversation with this? This was a tree that was taken down, unfortunately, without the commission's authorization. So a little bit of story behind it. Brent, the neighbor, had a tree come through our process, had a company go out and remove that tree, and in doing so, identified the neighbor's tree, contacted the neighbor, and that second tree was taken down. And Brent identified that because the neighbor asked for a assistance grant through the city, which he received. But to do that, we had to confirm that that tree had been removed, the stump was ground, and so on and so forth. So after the second tree was identified, Brent contacted the neighbors. He spoke with them and I've spoken with them, and they're just here to really explain what the situation was. And I think, Brent, you can speak to the condition of the tree if you want.
Yeah, so the tree that was removed, it was a sugar maple. It's two trees that flanked either side of a driveway. The one that's more front here is the one that we're talking about. The other one, as Sue just previously mentioned, was the one where the neighbor had gone through the tree removal permit process. My understanding, after getting to talk to the residents and to the tree company that did the removal work, Sario Brothers, was while doing the removal for the neighboring property, Asari Brothers reached out to you all and offered to do the removal on that tree as well. That's correct? Yeah. But we can also see from this photo is from Google Maps, but is reflective of the condition of the tree that I saw when I also did the initial inspection on the neighboring tree. I'd like to note that when I was inspecting the neighboring tree, I also got to talk to the gentleman here too. And while I did share that I was able to see the dead branches on that side of the tree, I did not give the full information to you about the permitting process for removal of said tree.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Especially when I found out that you could get a partial reimbursement.
Right.
Had I known that, I certainly would have applied for the permit,
Yeah,
and I would have applied for the assistance as well. But
Yeah.
I was totally unaware, did not know anything
Is
about
this
it.
something new, sir?
No, it's been around for a few years. The reimbursement is
Right.
fairly
But in
new.
the paper, like, how would I have known this?
Most of the companies are aware of it, so we do rely on many of the tree companies. They get notified like every couple of years. We send them a notice that, it is a requirement.
Because I knew nothing. I mean, I
Most-
certainly would
yeah.
have come down
This
here.
was a situation where I knew the tree had to come down. I have been picking up branches for 2 years.
Right,
Right.
yeah,
When we would get wind like we've had recently here, there would be branches in the street, in my front yard.
Right.
But I kept putting it off and putting it off. And what it was,
yeah,
when I saw the one done next door, I said, there's no time like the present, let's do it now, you know? Because I knew it had to come
Jim
down. It was
Noble never
dangerous.
told me that I needed a permit.
Well, we didn't,
Exactly.
it wasn't his
Right.
thing to tell me that anyway.
right.
But I
I think
had
what
no idea.
Most people assume because they are street trees, that it's the city of Kingston's responsibility. So a lot of property owners will reach out to the city and say, hey, the
Yeah.
street tree in front of my house is dead, you need to do something about it. And that's when the property owner is advised,
It's
it
your
is a street tree, but it becomes, under the city code, it is the responsibility of the abutting property owner. And that's a lot of how the
Right.
property owners become aware of what is needed to be done as well. So there's a few different ways that the word gets out, but in this case, obviously, I think that, had you followed the process, I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but I believe that it probably would have allowed for the tree to come out as well, and be removed along with the neighboring tree. The issue now becomes, because it was not done, obviously, we can't afford you the opportunity to get the reimbursement, grant assistance. But I think, what we would like to see, is a tree to be replanted, in close proximity. So I'm not sure exactly the lay of your particular property, but where your utilities, obviously we want to avoid utilities. Even though there was a tree, you can't really plant in that exact location, immediately. It will take a few years even though the stump was ground below grade, it'll take a few years for the subsoils to really degrade enough for a planting to take place maybe. But would you be willing to replant?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, we want to recognize that this was the one, not a tree in peak health, and two, that your intentions behind it were not malicious or anything. But also, to have a new tree planted,
Sure.
I'd be really happy to work with you both
Sure.
for finding the right location with the underground stuff that Sue had just mentioned. And also a species that would be appropriate both for the location and also for what you all value in having a tree in front of the home.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, I'm gonna end up putting it quite a ways from there, because it's hard to see in the picture, but there's a hydrant right alongside it as well.
Yeah.
Cedric,
do you know approximately where your water line and your sewer lines?
I know where they are.
Okay,
Yep,
okay,
yep.
okay,
Yeah, and anytime that the city would be working with the resident to install a new tree in front of their home, we also do underground locating for water, gas, and anything
So
else.
they would come and lay it out again anyway, but I
Exactly.
have a pretty good idea where it is.
That's really helpful.
do any commission members have any questions or comments? Yes,
I would recommend that the tree that they replant is much smaller with how much area they have instead of a big sugar maple.
a
I
medium,
recommend the size, like
Yeah.
medium to small. And then I would also like to have a letter sent to that tree removal company, having them know that in the policy, I feel as though they were the ones that were mostly in the wrong by, doing something nice for them, yes, but they knew that they were supposed to get a permit, and that pretty much is what prevented them from being able to get the assistance and.
I don't think, I know the Osario people.
Mhm.
And I don't think they're not from this area, they're from Poughkeepsie. actually,
But they do a lot
They're
of work.
very
They
competent
do-
workers. That's
do a
one
lot
of the
of work.
reasons why I decided to have it done then. I saw what they did next door, and
It's
it's
like, oh my God.
these are the guys that have done no time like the present. Let's get the tree down before a limb falls that I can't actually get out of the way.
It's true, they have a good reputation. I've also called and spoken directly with Osario to ask them, if, one, they were aware of the city's permitting needs ahead of time,
okay.
specifically in this situation, and then told them that,
So-
yes, the city of Kingston has a requirement for.
Okay.
Did they know that?
Like crew manager said that she did not. But then, afterwards, speaking with, the foreman on the crew that was there, he was a little bit more uncertain as to whether or not, that was accurate. Yeah.
I think a letter, though, a phone
letter.
conversation was good, but I think a letter would be appropriate in this case because then it's documented that it went to the company. And, you know, if this comes up in the future, you have that documentation. And then if a fine is levied, then the property owner can certainly go after the company.
And perhaps, look at the permits that are getting issued for tree removals and see if there's any companies that we haven't sent a letter to in a long time or ones that we haven't sent one to. And so we can, kind of canvass that a little
Yeah.
bit to make sure that we're doing our part.
But even if it is afterward, like, I'm just wondering, do they even have a proper insurance?
Yeah, they do.
They do. They're a larger company. Yeah.
Yeah, they're big.
Yeah.
Did you talk to Marvin? He's the owner.
I did not talk to Marvin. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm in agreement. For just a general letter to all the tree companies in the area makes sense.
Because we're constantly hearing of new ones.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's like, it's a repeat thing.
Yeah,
going
I
on.
think even like the old one, like the staff might change. So I feel like it's almost every year we should like, listen to make it.
Yeah. Beginning of the year, it's time to send out a new letter.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sometimes like ownership, like a son might take over for a father or like whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
okay, so I do need a motion from one of the commissioners, for, directing the property owners of 37 Roosevelt Avenue to, do a tree replacement, in proximity. And we recommend a small tree and that they work with the urban forester to determine the species.
And that we waive their fine.
Huh?
And that we waive the fine.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
So can I have a motion? Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Second by Evan. Is there any discussion? Is a motion a second? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried.
Yeah, so
Thank you. Accept.
Yep, nice seeing you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
folks, do you have any other questions for you? All right, thank you for coming. in.
What, go to Augustine's and look for a tree that I like?
If there's a tree you like at Augustine's, before you buy it, reach out to me, see,
There
was
was
a
a
tree
tree,
that-
had planted trees before, they planted a pear tree that fell down on the front part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not doing pears as much
Right.
anymore
right.
as street trees.
What basically kind of tree would it be? What would you suggest?
Yeah.
A maple tree?
I'd probably
But
not
not as
do,
big, she's saying, no.
I would probably not do maple either, as they're fairly.
Because it heaves the
overplanted.
sidewalks, it heaves the curbs.
Exactly,
You
yeah.
know, it's
But
gonna
there-
take a while for that to happen, but eventually it's gonna happen.
Yeah, so let's avoid that happening in the future. We have a go-to list of species that I can also send to you all as well. And I can focus it specifically on the medium and the small size. It's over 30 different types of trees. I don't want to bog you down right now.
Sure.
Yeah,
Maybe you could get sent liquor letter.
that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want any nasty fruit trees that are dropping up all over the place.
Oh, kids will step in it.
I hear a lot about those too.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Have a good day. Thanks, bye.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, so now we're just gonna go back. You all should have received a copy of the December 10th meeting minutes. I did put some extra copies on the table for you. If you've all read them, I don't know if there's any questions or comments, but we need a motion to approve them and accept them, and then a second. Okay, motion by Evan. And second by, I'll give that one to Vince, okay. Any questions on the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Okay, they're approved. Okay, 34 Van Buren, we are holding off on, correct?
That's right.
And we do have an addition though, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna be looking at 122 Clinton Ave. I sent it, what's that? I sent an email about it, I think yesterday morning with an update for, this one came in late, so we're adding it in now.
My phone did an update. I don't like how the new email is presented, so I probably missed it somehow.
Why did they have to change?
Oh, it was so
it?
sorry.
Yeah,
So I missed that, I'm sorry.
no, totally fine. So we'll go over here too. So 122 Clinton, this is a church over, kind of on the border of Uptown and Midtown. There's a substantial honey locust, 26-inch DBH trunk on it. Although it's on the backside of the curb, it does fall within 3 feet of the public right of way for Clinton Ave on that part. I believe the deacon for the church, I forget my church names, but said that they would like to, or they applied for pruning in order to remove various deadwood throughout the crown, and then also where branches are rubbing on the side of the building, which is on the right side of that photo there. Honey locust, they routinely make deadwood. This one probably hasn't gotten any pruning in like the last decade or so. My recommendation would be for the pruning to focus on no more than 25% pruning of the tree crown, focusing on the dead limbs within the tree and building clearance. And also, I'm going to switch the photo to a Google Maps view to show, which you can kind of get a sense there from that photo, but we'd also like to make the recommendation to the property owners to expand the tree pit that the tree is currently growing in.
Yeah, it's it, curb,
What's that?
like the sidewalk, it just like.
Exactly,
It's
yeah.
that off, like,
Yeah.
should be moved.
Yeah, I think, I mean, right, if you look at it, they have a simple
Yeah.
fix on the inside, and that's to
Exactly.
remove the concrete that is there, that strip of concrete along the inside. If they really want a sidewalk connection,
Yeah.
where they have that blank landscape thing right there, it's put the concrete there,
Yeah.
move it over.
Yeah.
And that will open up a lot more of the tree lawn area. The outside is a little bit tougher because that's a fairly
That's lifting.
well-traveled area, I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. It's a heavy pedestrian over there.
Yeah, that is a heavy pedestrian area. This is also a community, like, free food access point as well. Yeah, there's a food fridge over there. Yeah, we can see that the trunk flare is lifting the concrete on the right side, and now would be a really great time to have some sidewalk excavation on the left side while still keeping ADA access. And ideally 6 feet of sidewalk for 2 people to be able to walk side by side.
And that's a bus stop right there for the middle school.
Exactly, it is, yeah. The church also mentioned that too. One of their priorities for getting the pruning work done is because children come, for the bus. And yeah, this would be the right time to do it. As I would imagine, from the site visit of the tree, it's like the trunk flare has just gotten to the edges of the concrete, and better to do the work now versus when there's overgrowth of the flare on top of the concrete.
They are wire on the top, right?
No wires.
There's no overhead wires on that
Yeah,
spot.
it's up to
So
tell.
It crosses over on the other side.
Yeah.
The other side, yeah.
Here it is.
Oh, here?
Can you go up, maybe the Lord, go up on the
There.
Google map? Just switch your,
And I'm gonna go over onto Clinton here. And oh, I'm mistaken, the wires do go through. I was thinking of the service lines that cross to the other side of Clinton. So there are wires running through the ground.
Didn't see that, okay.
I think potentially is the Central Hudson going to chop the middle of the tree and.
they haven't yet, so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Potentially, that's what I'm saying. is potentially.
There's always a potential for that to happen with utility clearance, with the current setup of Central Hudson having the easement and not needing to apply for any permitting or anything like that through the city in order to have utility clearance work done. And then, as we've seen, Central Hudson, their first directive when doing utility clearing is 10 feet of clearance. And then maybe their crews have the capacity to visit other pruning after doing that work.
So would it make sense for them maybe if like the church is decided to prune the tree, would it be more like, for them to trim that particular area? So it won't be totally destroy the integrity of the tree structure.
Yeah, that makes sense, Evan. Maybe a good directive would be in focusing the pruning and also being 25% less of the crown is to also do pruning for potential utility wire conflicts
Yeah.
with the goal of preserving health and structure of the tree canopy form while doing that utility work. And we could have that full directive be given as pruning directions. How would that work for the tree commission? It's good. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, Evan. That's a good point.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of the people that go for programs there use that as like shade, like,
Yeah.
because they put chairs along that side of the church and hang out there.
It's one of the few trees. I live like a block away from there. It's one of the few trees in that area. And I love a 50-foot tall honey locust. So like,
Yeah, I'm right around the corner,
okay, yeah.
because I used to be my son's club stuff.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we need motion.
I make a motion to follow Brent's advice to do 25% of the pruning and focus some branches and such to be removed in preserving the health of the tree based on what Central Hudson might do if it's not done. But more eloquent, the way he said it.
Thanks.
Not
Yeah.
really.
And sidewalk,
And work on the sidewalk to expand.
and then the standard insurance.
Mhm.
Okay.
Now, do you think, one question, that maybe Central Hudson, like, I don't know what their abilities are in the sense of, because it's on the other side of the sidewalk, even though it's in our area of having to approve it, does Central Hudson go onto that side and just cut into somebody's personal tree that's not a city one too? Is that count? Okay.
Where there's wires.
Where there's the
Okay.
utility.
It doesn't matter where it
Yeah.
falls on the person's property.
They
Because
have
that's not, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know they won't go on,
They don't do
they don't do,
individual connections.
Connections,
They'll
right,
do
to
the
the
main, the main trunk lines
Okay.
and power source lines, but your individual connection to your property, if you're having an issue, they're not gonna come out and
right,
do that for you. That's your responsibility. Yeah.
the one luxury we do get.
I've talked to them, because I have a shooting meeting.
The meeting already over?
Now, okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Can we have a second? Okay, a second by Vince. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Okay. And just let the record know that Tebby has joined us. That's okay.
Yeah, with the tree removal portion, let's check in, Michael, is there anything that you want to do adjust to the tree?
I just wanted to make an announcement. I don't know if you have all worked with George Opus. Well, George retired, as you know, and I can announce that we're gonna backfill an urban forester. And
Oh,
should
that's
have
good.
someone by the spring.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, I just want, I'm trying to get around to, some of the different areas and
Okay,
like that. Now, we're just posting it right now, so we gotta go through our process.
all
We
right.
hope to have someone in there by,
Arbor Day?
oh, yeah,
Okay.
Arbor Day.
Because usually we try and have a forester come up for, and participate
Yes.
in our Arbor Day.
And I wanted to say that we'll try and help.
Okay.
So just reach out to me and
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah, that's great.
any other, some of the different grant opportunities. Did you have a chance to participate in that
The
last
core webinar?
core webinar?
I did. yeah.
Okay, good.
So yeah, core is coming up. I have a meeting with our Director of Parks and Recreation tomorrow to go over potential sites for the core grant. And yeah, the webinar is very helpful with understanding the scope of projects. And I did have a question for you about different grants. Yeah, so,
If I can answer, I'll try.
yeah, sure. Have you seen the air pollution mitigation grant?
I have not.
Yeah, air pollution mitigation grant, it focuses on, the grant towards utilities, also a no match grant, or towards municipalities, I'm sorry, for the mitigation of air pollution, either through, mechanical means such as air filtering, mitigation of pollution at the sources, which would be like fuels being burned by like fuel burning vehicles. My question, of course, is trees included in that?
That
Yeah,
seems a logical question.
yeah.
I will ask.
Oh, great, yeah.
You
so
mean
they-
tree planting?
Tree planting,
Okay.
yeah. I'm always on the hunt,
Yep, no, it's important.
yeah.
That's why I'm here to kind of hear some of the stuff, because I manage other programs and I don't really have a real good handle on urban, trying to take a more active role.
Yeah, good to know. Yeah, that was my only other question for you outside of Sue's
And
question.
then when it comes time to evaluate some of the sites, if you have questions, let me know, because I do realize that the region is going to be involved in answering some of the questions, because the
Yeah.
Albany staff, they're reviewing the grants,
Mhm.
so they're not necessarily going to be able to answer the questions
Right,
that we can.
yeah,
Because we're
that
not
makes a
going
lot
to
of
review the
sense.
grants.
Yeah, that absolutely would be the next part that I'd love to have.
So I would be the contact for that until we get the new person.
Okay, great.
If that air pollution mitigation grant, if trees are an eligible
Mhm.
program, planting trees, are there limitations as to locations?
Correct.
Like, is that the distressed community thing, or is that just a citywide, that be citywide, or
Right, yeah.
what are the qualifications?
Yeah, I don't recall in the RFA on it, seeing anything about it being focused on CDS or disadvantaged communities, but that would be another.
Yeah, I wrote that down.
Great, yeah, thanks. Lou.
Okay,
Listen, but most.
Say it again.
I'm thinking about most, and the way kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
And tree could be like, planting in general,
Yeah.
like all the different, like mushrooms.
Yeah, myco remediation, yeah. I'd be really curious if myco remediation makes it into,
Micro remediation?
yeah, so using mushrooms for, site remediation purposes.
I got it.
Kind of like phyto remediation of
Yeah,
using
yeah.
plants, but myco instead,
Mike, okay.
yeah. Yeah,
And most say that lots of studies about how most pictures the air more than anything else.
it's true, Moss Lake is a super dynamic accumulator of air pollutants as well, so, I mean, a roof moss initiative, I wonder how that would go.
I'm
usually they're telling you to take them off.
Right, exactly.
I know, well,
Yeah. But great, that's a really inventive idea, actually. I like that. Yeah.
I'm trying to build this like a moss, like in place, like especially on walls,
Yeah,
because now they can mix concrete with moss.
yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And like they can do it with hempcrete now as well. Yeah, okay, we're on the same page.
That's really amazing.
Karina and I can't hang out outside of this because we would lose track of time.
I know, we have so many questions.
Michael had just mentioned the DEC, the New York State DEC's core grant, which is a new one, which I don't think I've had the opportunity to tell the tree commission about. But this core grant goes towards urban communities having reforestation and afforestation grant fundings at publicly accessible areas. It's also available to, I believe, hospital campuses and university campuses or college campuses.
Local schools
High school?
qualify?
Yeah, high school?
Yeah,
So like the high school?
it's possible, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when the phrase reforestation, afforestation is used, it's for forested environments as opposed to parkscape trees. So not a managed mowed around tree kind of situation. This would be think more along the terms of like a closed canopy forest, which we have, off the top of my head, 3 different parks in Kingston that have woodland environments with hiking trails on them. That all are currently sites that have like large understory and invasive pressure in them. Specifically, this core grant goes towards invasive and brush clearing, tree planting, but in like a reforestation scale. So think more like your plugs or like smaller potted plants that may then have like tree tubes. Versus, like a large like street tree with a large root ball that's burlap.
Talking larger numbers of seedling saplings.
Yeah.
Deer fencing.
Yeah, and deer occlusion fencing also, to help with deer pressure in these sites. It does not go towards herbaceous plantings either, so it's focused on getting trees into these.
It could focus on a herbaceous interfering plant control. It could.
Good clarification, yeah.
And it might also involve increasing the amount of sunlight that can hit the forest floor. A lot of times the Norway maple has invaded these woodlots.
When there's an existing seed bank, potentially of native understory plants, clearing out Norways, as Michael's pointing out, because they do it's great parking under them, right? Because it's 100% shade, but in the wooded environment, it prevents our spring ephemerals and such from coming up. But I'm really excited.
It's actually very exciting, and this is modeled after our outreach and our cost sharing programs we've tailored to private landowners in the forested environments. So this is like moving into the urban areas, and there's plenty there. Most municipalities have acreage that could use this.
Yeah. Claire, did you have a question?
Have you contacted the Kickstarter Trust for this?
No, I haven't, but I'm curious if they're going after it as well.
All together, or like I feel like this
Yeah.
one is such a great project.
Which is also something that the DEC allows for, which is multiple agencies working on collective projects.
Sure.
Yes,
It's going to be competitive. There's going to be a lot of people who
right.
are going to apply to this.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, so my working list for this core grant, tomorrow it's Parks meeting to confirm these locations and Parks interest in being involved with this program. Initial kind of like just passing conversation about it with Parks Director Lindsay, that she loves the possibility for this. Tomorrow will be like looking over site meetings and that sort of thing. Following that would be reaching out to Kingston Land Trust to see if they're already if CORE is already on their radar, and if they have projects in mind that might overlap with some areas where Kingston Land Trust is very close or connecting to Kingston City Parks.
On the topic of like air pollution, right? I think there are certain trees that they are more effective on the purification, which is like to clean the air. So I just like based on our tree list, like city tree list, I think like I'm gonna say I'm not going about now, but like when we have the chance, can we just update this to really, just to maybe align with like, to this like more, certain trees are more, with the purification, air purification
Yeah.
quality,
Yeah.
and like, it will become an indication for us to plant the tree, just in terms of, reforestation.
It's actually a great lead into some of the points that the mayor made in his State of the City address earlier in the month. And one was that the code is going to, the tree ordinance will be getting updated. That's one task that Brent's been given to focus on. And if you recall, one of our wants on that list is to separate out the tree list, which we've sort of already done, from the actual code itself, so that it's a freestanding document that is looked at by this commission on a more regular basis without having to go through that code modification amendment process, which is time consuming and involves political leaders that are not as savvy about the types of trees and what should be on the list, what's going on in that part of the universe. So that is going to be happening, and that's a good point to make, to look at the types of trees, not only focusing on native species now, but also maybe what their benefits are, and seeing, what we can come up with.
I have a question, because I think often what happens with some contractor I met is like, they are still using the original list because they don't know there is a new list. So I would just kind of like advocate for this list to be removed from any kind of like, because that's what happened. Like,
Yeah.
we update it on our site, but people come to like the original list and they're like, hey, this is a list,
Right.
So just to make sure this one is buried somewhere.
Yeah, that list served its purpose at the time it was put on there, and tree lists are ever evolving. They're living documents. The idea of what trees were appropriate to plant 20 years ago is different than what trees are appropriate to plant now.
We learned that lesson.
I think we may continue to learn that lesson.
Yeah, for
as
sure.
well. Yeah. So Sue was offering this as a segue into another item on the agenda, which is reviewing the mayor's State of the City address, and how he mentioned a few urban forestry things. I made just a short bullet point of them that I could read for the commission. So get this one out of the way, hired an urban forester. Hi. The next one that he brought up was the, mayor's initiative to plant 1,000 trees in Kingston by 2030. He said that our current planting is 477 trees. That latest update was done by me from calculating how many street trees were planted. Park projects such as Post Office Park, which those trees were in the ground before the end of the year, so they're included in the 2024 totals. And other smaller city projects. The biggest one probably would be Dietz Stadium, where a large number of trees were planted. You all probably either heard or have seen the current condition of the Dietz Stadium trees. The public has been letting me know that because they were planted in August, really, really challenging to keep up with the water needs for them. But any trees that may not make it with like our spring leaf out period where they just, gave their last gasp over the winter, those trees have a warranty on them to be replaced as well. So, and then those warranty trees would not be included in the 2025 tree. We're not double dipping.
Is the new, one thing I haven't asked the mayor, and you might know this, is the new trees, are they the net new trees, or are they like, so if, like with the Deep Stadium project, there were several trees removed in order to undertake the improvements that were made. So the number of trees that went in, is the gain the number of trees that's reported, or is the total number of new trees reported?
The number is just only the number of trees planted, with no bearing on number of trees removed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not a net,
It's not a net.
okay, all right.
But that might be a little bit concerning, right? Let's say if overall we remove more tree than what we plant, then basically we are still short, we still have a shortage of, planting tree.
Right.
Even we say on a number we plant like 1,000 tree, but actually, like let's say 400, and I mean, it's like, our effort is not there still.
Yeah, an objective that I'm hoping that this tree ordinance that will be presented to Common Council probably mid-year. We did not want to surprise Common Council with a tree ordinance, rather give them time to hear that it's something that's under development, allow Common Council to have opportunities, as well as the Tree Commission to have opportunities to say like, here's what we would like to have in it, or questions of, is this in it, you know, the whatabouts, right? One of the things that I would actually like to have the city transition to, with the incredible opportunities that we're having from these various grant funding sources to come into, the current city pace for planting 1,000 new trees will be reached before 2030. I'm more interested in seeing if we could adapt towards a goal of canopy cover percentage as opposed to number of trees. That's canopy cover percentages, like the metric from the maps I've showed you all previous meetings, where like, if we could get to that kind of accepted standard of 30% canopy coverage for each census tract within the city of Kingston, that would be like a admirable goal to meet, which is more reflective of like the value of urban trees versus individual trees being planted.
Sure, and just what you were saying, I think also it's different, like trees that are moved because they're dead,
Right.
you know, versus like trees that were like, you know, so this is also like a difference.
I can tell you like Academy Green, there's one tree was being removed. I think like because of condition or, you know, for whatever reason it be removed. But I think like in our, you know, basically, I don't know, we don't keep an inventory or anything, so okay, the tree has been removed. And so we don't know like, you know, for example, there's like unauthorized removal, things like that, then unless we really do certain inspections, oh, this tree is gone, but you know, but like the replanting was not really, so there's no like actual monitoring, like it's very difficult, I actually have to say.
Where we are right now, our parks and our street trees do have the 2018 inventory, which the tree population has changed since 2018. I've actually heard from, was it Mackenzie?
Amy
McLaughlin?
McKenzie.
Amy, sorry, yeah, got those mixed up. But Amy McKenzie, who's our urban forester with the DEC, has said that there is a potential, granted everything's in flux because of administration changes at the federal level and that sort of thing, but there is potential for municipal grants to come for tree inventory and tree inventory updates in 2025. Not gonna hold you to it. But it's kind of like grapevine information coming in right now. I would really like to update our city tree inventory. There's different ways to go about managing let's say like a living tree inventory, similar to like a living like species list that changes over time, which is to just do cyclical updates on the inventory. One potential way of doing it is instead of doing an entire tree inventory, which may be, you know, in Kingston's case, roughly like 4,000 trees, and factor it would cost somewhere between $6 to $10 per tree for an inventory to happen. To have the city divided up into zones, potentially along like wards or something like that, and just do a zone of inventory update each year. It's a lower cost that way, and it keeps a rolling stock. So by the time you get through, you know, let's say 5 zones, when you get to year 5, that's a great time to go back to that first zone and update the inventory again.
And could there be a system, like for example, for every new part that's been done, you know, like all the trees are kind of like sent into like an Excel file or something like this, so like any authorization we give for people to plant, it goes straight there, this way you don't have to.
Yeah, so new plantings that are done either in the parks or street trees, I add them into both the public tree map, which is now on the City of Kingston website, and then that public tree map is based off of my internal management map, which started with the 2018 inventory, but I've added most of the plantings done between like 2020 and 2022 with like street projects to that map, including any new plantings going on. Like since now it won't be oh, I need to add 400 trees. Yeah, I can just stop
Or
by.
maybe you want to.
And you do the removals.
Sure. Yeah, so when a removal happens from like the tree commission's permission or that's something, I update it in our GIS map as well. Yeah. The last thing that the mayor mentioned in his State City address, which we've kind of already talked a little bit about it, is that he said that we are putting forth a tree ordinance. The two notes that he focused on was it would be protecting our largest native trees was the language that he used. And for any time when a tree is removed, a tree is planted for that tree being lost. The state of the ordinance in the draft that's in right now has a lot of different potentials for tree replacements based off of tree removals. That one-to-one tree replacement thing is one way to go about it. One aspect that I'm advocating for is that we actually go with a trunk surface area calculation for the total size of the tree. How many nursery trees would it take to replace the value of that mature tree? A lot of municipalities use this. The ISA has a whole book on tree evaluations based off of using these formulas. It's becoming a new standard when it comes to.
How did you see that working in like the case of these individuals here where they don't have the room
Right.
to, I mean, obviously, so would then you say they provide the city with the funds to, or
That is one,
how would you
yeah,
look at that?
yeah, that is one potential way of, let's say that, silver maple, or excuse me, sugar maple that the residents came in for. That tree was somewhere in the 20s DBH, probably the value of it, if it was like perfectly healthy, maybe $20,000. As far as like replacing all the benefits that that tree provides with nursery trees, which you cannot actually do that. Like a mature tree, like you would have to just create a forest of nursery trees to kind of fill the same surface area. So while that's not possible, we can get pretty close. One of the options is, say they only want to plant one tree, they could cover the cost paid back to the city for tree plantings elsewhere, ideally focused within the same community where the tree is being removed. That tree being so far in decline of health, its value is not $20,000 because it's not providing the benefits that a healthy tree that size would. So it would probably be substantially less, probably closer around the cost of the removal of that tree, if I had to guess. So let's say that tree's value has gone down to maybe like $3,000. So then they're paying for one new tree to be installed, which going rate right now is maybe like $900 for a street tree to be planted. And then the rest of it could go either towards, so as you were saying, like they pay the difference back to the city, or they pay for 2 more trees to be planted if they have enough site space for it, or within the community. Yeah.
Is there a way, like you were talking about wards and like doing the inventory of that method? If they only have an area to plant 1 more tree, but they should plant 3.
Yeah.
Then when we're casing and handing out the applications for tree planting, then we can designate like that ward, okay, that ward's like 8
Right.
trees, and we could focus like to get that zone, to get that ward to have that many planted with our.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I would probably, like, ward is a good objective. It would be great if it could go down to like either the specific census tract or perhaps down to the street level also, but, you know.
Start.
Yeah, exactly. And.
Some way to keep record of it, I mean.
Right, exactly, yeah. So a record keeping, that's also very, something that's able to be done through, which we would probably get to this point with, as far as like documents that the tree commission is involved with, of this updated ordinance, like managing the tree value that's being paid back for large trees being removed. Could be as simple as a spreadsheet, right? Yeah.
And that could apply for the city itself.
Correct, yeah. So I talked to the mayor about this, where this is like, if this was something that is to be added and passed by the common council to go into a new tree ordinance, the city would be held to the same level as community as well. So if the city for a street project is going to remove a large tree, that same valuation would happen, and the city would have the responsibility to plant out that value of replacement trees. Yeah. I think
That's something that's constantly brought up by the community.
Yeah.
When the trees are being removed is you're planting this one little, like, 5 extra little trees, but you're removing like 7 giant trees.
Yeah, exactly. So I think showing that internal accountability is extremely important with maintaining trust with the community.
Yeah, we're asking for.
Right. Yeah. But those were the 3 things that the mayor highlighted in his State of the City address. And did the commission have any other questions about any of those things that were brought up?
What can we ask for?
Well, wish list.
Give her a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Doesn't need much time.
Yeah, I didn't. What was like something.
Okay, next, Arbor Day, planning.
So there is nothing much to report on. I have not been able to get in touch with the teacher, but we just got back. I know I've had things going on as well. So next week's Regents Week, so I feel as though aside from proctoring, and depending on his topic, he might have to do some grading of earth science or of the environment. He will, like myself, have more time to be able to communicate.
Okay, okay,
And I will invite him to the 11th meeting, with whatever is discussed.
yeah,
And
that
then
would be
obviously,
great
like,
if you
you
can,
can
if you
also
can
do
make
that.
the, yeah, if you can make the February meeting, and you can,
I will not be around.
Okay.
I can tell you, maybe March.
okay. Yeah, that would be great. Let us know, we can maybe dedicate a little bit more time to that on the agenda and focus on that. Because that'll be here before we know
And
it.
if
as we
there's
don't know.
any updates to the sapling distribution
Yeah,
in the next couple of weeks, that maybe you can email me,
I'd be happy to do that.
especially about like getting students to be part of that activity. That was well received last month.
Yeah, I really like the idea of having the students involved and be able to do like a live planting demonstration.
Because Science Honor Society, they have to do community service, so all of them will jump on that.
Let's get their hours in.
It's good for
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that being the way that we do it. Also on tomorrow's parks meeting that I have, we'll be bringing up like a park location to have the tree giveaway distribution occur. Spring tree giveaway for community members, yeah.
Yeah, so if you could reach out, if that is set in that meeting, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, for planning of the Arbor Day things, I was waiting to hear back about if the science teacher had had time to. But while the clock's ticking, we still have a little bit of buffer time, so yeah. I think over email, we could probably
Yeah.
get the rest of this put together. Yeah.
So Memorial Tree Fund on board again this year to support the,
I'm sure they will. I would have to look back and, it seems like we always vote on them.
yeah, okay.
And I'm trying, I'm not sure when our next meeting is. We only have 2
You
meetings.
mentioned last
Okay.
time about the cement and stuff.
Oh,
May have
Is it-
already.
Was that gone?
Is it gone?
No, no, they
And it's usually $500.
right.
Bring it back up.
Make some notes. I'm hearing
The cement.
I'm hearing talk over there about the cement stuff again.
No, because I think there's like, even the grass area, there's like, there's uneven.
Mhm.
Almost like at one time on the trip myself, I was like, well, that's perfect, I guess so.
You're welcome.
Public. Yeah.
What's the date of Arbor Day this year?
The last Friday.
The last Friday.
I think it's 23rd.
Is that early?
I think so, yeah.
No, 25th.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
close.
Silent.
I was gonna say 27th. so.
Yeah, over and under, right?
You guys both meet in the middle.
Yeah, the one last thing that I wanted to mention, because we brought it up a minute ago, was approved species list. Like I've got a working one that has been updated that actually George Profos had been involved with Kyla and the rest of planning earlier. It's at a stage where I have the species divided into large, medium, and small, and native versus non-native / non-invasive species. Big old list for natives, real small list on non-native and non-invasive. But it is at a point where I think it's valuable for me to email it to the tree commission and planning as well. It's put together enough to have you all add into it as well. And I do like the idea of being able to note, like, is this like a high pollinator habitat tree? Is this a pollution
Yeah,
filtering tree?
That's a good thing,
Yeah.
particularly for the general public too, when they're looking at trees.
And I remember like from the list, we did George and we some like park trees versus street trees.
Yes, I have that division on there too. Yeah. Okay.
Is there anything else? No? Okay, I will accept a motion to adjourn. Okay, motion by Evan. Is there a second? Second by Amanda. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? We adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
But you need to be